When the morning begins, most people reach first for their phone, their worries, or their plans, but the speech reminds us that the first thing we should reach for is gratitude to God. The moment you open your eyes is not ordinary, it is a divine gift. You did not wake yourself up. You did not command your heart to keep beating while you slept. You did not protect your home through the night. God did. And because God was faithful while you were unconscious, the least you can do when you become conscious is to acknowledge Him. Giving thanks in the morning is not just a religious habit, it is a spiritual alignment. It sets the direction of your heart before the noise of the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions. When you start your day with thanksgiving, you are choosing faith before fear. You are declaring that no matter what happens today, God has already made a way. Instead of beginning with anxiety, you begin with authority. Instead of beginning with pressure, you begin with peace. Gratitude doesn't change the clock, but it changes your spirit. It does not remove every problem from your day, but it changes how you face your problems. A thankful heart walks into trouble with confidence because it knows God is already present. When thanksgiving becomes your morning language, something remarkable begins to happen. Your mind becomes calmer, your heart becomes softer, your perspective begins to shift. You stop expecting the worst and start trusting God for the best. You stop complaining about what you don't have and start appreciating what you do have. And when you appreciate what you have, God begins to multiply it. Gratitude is not just a response, it is an invitation. It invites God into your schedule, into your thoughts, and into your conversations. Many people pray only when something goes wrong, but the message here is to pray before anything goes wrong. Thank God before the problem shows up. Praise God before the challenge arrives. Worship God before the door opens. When you begin your day with gratitude, you are covering your entire day with God's presence. And when God is at the center of your morning, He has a way of ordering the rest of your day. There is also power in giving thanks even when you wake up tired, stressed, or confused. Feelings come and go, but gratitude is stronger than feelings. You may not feel strong, but you can still be thankful. You may not feel hopeful, but you can still give praise. And every time you do, you are sending a message to your soul that God is bigger than how you feel. Gratitude trains your spirit to rise above your emotions instead of being ruled by them. When you give thanks first, you are not pretending everything is perfect. You are proclaiming that God is faithful. You are not denying challenges. You are declaring trust. You are not ignoring pain. You are acknowledging grace. Morning gratitude is a spiritual weapon. It prepares you to face life not as a victim of circumstances, but as a believer walking with God. And when you walk with God from the very first moment of your day, you walk differently, speak differently, and believe differently. Gratitude is easy when life is good, when doors open, when prayers are answered quickly, and when everything is working in your favor. But the true test of thanksgiving is not in moments of comfort, it is in moments of challenge. The speech makes it clear that giving thanks is not only for celebration days, it is also for the hard, confusing, painful ones. When life hurts, praise feels unnatural. When disappointment comes, gratitude feels impossible, but this is exactly when thanksgiving becomes most powerful. Thanking God in difficulty is not pretending that pain does not exist. It is declaring that pain does not rule you. Giving thanks during sorrow is an act of faith. It is saying, I trust you even when I don't understand you. It is choosing to believe that God is working even when nothing seems to be moving. When things don't go as planned, when you lose something you prayed to keep, or when you wait longer than expected for change, gratitude protects your heart from becoming bitter. Without thanksgiving, the heart becomes heavy with anger and disappointment. But when you thank God, even through tears, your soul remains soft instead of breaking hard. Hard times can make people feel forgotten by God, but the truth is, difficult seasons do not mean God has left you. They often mean God is shaping you. Some struggles are not meant to destroy you, they are meant to mature you. Some delays are not denials, they are preparations. When you give thanks in trial, you are agreeing to grow. Instead of complain, you are choosing development over despair. Gratitude in pain also rewires your spiritual vision. Instead of asking only, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is God teaching me? You stop seeing problems as punishment and start seeing them as process. You realize that sometimes what feels like loss is actually God removing what would have limited your future. You understand that sometimes rejection is protection and sometimes closed doors are divine direction. Thanking God in hardship lifts you above your emotions. Pain tries to speak louder than faith. Fear tries to drown out hope. But gratitude interrupts that negative voice. Every time you thank God in difficulty, you silence the lie that God is absent. Thanksgiving becomes spiritual resistance, a refusal to let darkness have the final word. There is also a deeper spiritual reward for those who praise through pain. When you thank God in trouble, you invite his presence into the situation, and where God's presence is, strength begins to rise. Peace enters chaos. Light steps into darkness. You may not see an immediate change, but something shifts in you. Your heart becomes stronger. Your faith becomes deeper. Your endurance becomes greater. Gratitude in suffering is not weakness. It is strength under pressure. It is spiritual courage. It means you are trusting God beyond comfort. And when you learn to praise him in difficulty, you prepare yourself to handle success with humility, blessings with wisdom, and breakthroughs with faith. Most of what God does for us happens quietly, without announcement and without applause. The speech reminds us that while we sleep, when we are unaware and unguarded, God remains fully awake, actively protecting and providing. We close our eyes in rest, but he opens his eyes in watchfulness. We lie down in weakness, but he stands in strength. There are dangers that never reach us, accidents that never happen, and crises that almost appear but suddenly disappear, and we never even realize how close they came. If God were to open our spiritual eyes for just one moment and allow us to see how much trouble he blocked, how many traps he closed, and how many attacks he canceled, we would never go a day without giving thanks. People often thank God for what they can see: a job, a home, a breakthrough, a healing. But the speech pushes us to remember the unseen blessings, protection from the enemy, shielding from hidden harm, preservation in moments we don't remember, and rescue from struggles we never recognized. There are roads you didn't take, relationships you didn't enter, and decisions you didn't make that God wasted no time in intervening. You thought it was coincidence. You thought it was luck, but it was God ordering your steps before you even knew you needed direction. You may wonder why you escaped something that destroyed someone else, why you survived what others did not, why you walked away from something that could have broken you permanently. It is not because you were better. It is not because you were stronger. It is because God covered you when you were unaware. He stood between you and danger. He whispered no to what looked good but would have ended badly. He closed doors you wanted so he could save you from what you didn't see behind them. Even when we make mistakes, God's mercy works overtime. We say the wrong things, go to the wrong places, and trust the wrong people, yet God still protects us. He touches hearts we will never meet. He interrupts plans we were never informed about. He reroutes paths we never realized we were walking toward. Protection is not always loud. Sometimes the greatest miracles are silent. Every morning you wake up is evidence of devotion from heaven. Your heartbeat is proof of God's faithfulness. Your breath is a daily reminder that your life is being held together by hands stronger than your own. You are alive not by accident, not by luck, not by chance, but by divine care. While the world sleeps, God shields. While you rest, God works. Gratitude grows deeper when you understand that your life is wrapped in mercy. When you realize that God saved you from things you do not even remember, you develop a heart that is constantly thankful. You stop living reckless and start living aware. You become humbled by the invisible goodness of God. And the more you recognize his unseen hand, the more you begin to trust his visible guidance. Gratitude has the power to change not what is happening around you, but what is happening within you. The speech makes it clear that when a person begins to thank God, something begins to shift on the inside. Life may still be challenging. The problems may not disappear overnight. The bills may still be waiting. The illness may still be present. But when gratitude enters the heart, peace enters with it. The soul becomes lighter and the spirit becomes stronger. Complaining weakens you, but thanksgiving rebuilds you from the inside out. When you live without gratitude, your eyes become trained to see only what is missing. You notice the one problem and ignore the 100 blessings. You remember the one disappointment, but forget the many victories. But gratitude changes where your eyes look. Instead of staring only at the struggle, you start seeing grace. Instead of counting losses, you begin to recognize mercy. You stop measuring your life by what went wrong and start valuing what God kept right. Thanksgiving does not deny reality. It defines it correctly. It does not pretend pain does not exist, but it refuses to let pain have the final word. Gratitude reminds your soul that although you are going through something, God is still with you. Although the road is rough, he is still faithful. Although you feel low, you are not forgotten. Gratitude becomes the voice that speaks peace into emotional storms and hope into broken places. A thankful heart is a healed heart in the making. When you constantly thank God, Bitterness begins to lose its grip. Anger begins to fade. Fear loses its authority. Sadness no longer defines your identity. Gratitude slowly pushes out the darkness that emotional pain tries to plant inside you. Instead of carrying resentment, you carry remembrance of how far God has already brought you. Instead of holding on to wounds, you hold on to worship. Gratitude also has a way of restoring joy. Joy is not dependent on comfort. It is connected to perspective. When your perspective changes, joy returns. Thankfulness reminds you that although your situation is temporary, God's goodness is permanent. When you realize that storms do not last forever, but God does, your heart learns how to rest even while waiting for change. The more grateful you become, the more you begin to notice the small blessings, fresh air, a quiet moment, a kind word, another sunrise. You stop taking life for granted. You start treating each day as a gift instead of a burden. You discover beauty where you once saw only routine. Gratitude opens your heart to appreciate what you once overlooked. Healing is not always sudden. Sometimes it is slow and gentle. Gratitude becomes part of that healing journey. Each time you give thanks, you are stitching your heart back together. Each prayer of gratitude becomes emotional medicine. Each word of praise becomes spiritual therapy, and over time, your heart grows stronger than what tried to break it. Thankfulness does not mean your life is perfect. It means you have learned how to see perfection in God, even when life is imperfect. When a person begins to praise God in the middle of trouble, they are doing something unnatural to the human mind, but powerful in the spiritual world. Most people wait for the storm to pass before they give thanks, but the speech teaches that praise in the storm is what invites the storm to pass. Gratitude is not just a response after victory, it is often the reason victory comes. When you lift your voice in a dark season, you are declaring that darkness does not control you. Your praise becomes an announcement that God is still in charge, even when life feels out of control. Breakthroughs are often born in moments of worship, when everything suggests you should quit, complain, or collapse. Choosing to praise changes the atmosphere. There is a spiritual shift that takes place when gratitude rises from a broken place. Heaven responds to faith that praises under pressure. God hears a thankful heart as a heart that trusts Him completely. And when God sees that kind of trust, He moves on your behalf. Praising God in difficulty also changes how you fight. You stop fighting with fear and start fighting with faith. Instead of speaking words of defeat, you speak words of victory. Instead of magnifying the problem, you magnify God. And when God is magnified, the problem is minimized. Praise puts God back in His rightful place in your life, above the struggle, above the pain, above the impossible situation in front of you. The act of praising in pain is not denying what hurts. It is declaring who heals. It is not fake joy. It is fearless faith. You may not feel strong, but your praise is stronger than your feelings. You may not see a way through, but your gratitude reminds your soul that God always makes a way. When you worship through worry, peace steps in. When you praise through pressure, strength rises up. Praise also opens doors that human effort cannot. There are battles you cannot win with logic, effort, or strategy. They require a spiritual key. Praise becomes that key. It unlocks divine intervention. It invites supernatural help. It pulls God into a place where human weakness once ruled. What you cannot fix with your hands, God can change with his power. In difficult moments, praise becomes a bridge between despair and hope. It connects your present struggle to God's future promise. It keeps you standing while you wait. It holds your heart steady when emotions try to shake you apart. And even before the breakthrough arrives, praise already shifts something within you. It gives you courage. It gives you clarity. It gives you strength to believe again. Some victories do not arrive quietly. They come suddenly, unexpectedly, and completely. But many of them start with silent praise when nothing seems to be happening. Faith grows in praise. Endurance is born in praise. And when the right time comes, praise turns into testimony. Gratitude is not something you wait to feel. It is something you decide to do. The speech makes it clear that thanksgiving is not based on emotion, mood, or circumstance. It is a daily choice. Feelings rise and fall like waves. One moment you feel strong, the next moment you feel weak. One day you are hopeful, the next you are overwhelmed. If gratitude were based on emotion alone, it would disappear the moment life became uncomfortable. But choosing gratitude means giving thanks even when your heart does not feel like it. It is an act of discipline rooted in faith. When you choose gratitude every day, you are training your spirit instead of your emotions to lead your life. You stop allowing stress, fear, or disappointment to control your reactions. Instead, you allow faith to guide your response. Gratitude becomes your anchor. It holds you steady in changing circumstances. When life tries to shake you, thanksgiving keeps you grounded. When trouble tries to confuse you, praise gives you clarity. Choosing gratitude daily does not mean ignoring pain. It means you refuse to let pain become your identity. It means you acknowledge struggle without surrendering to it. You are saying, this situation is difficult, but it will not define me. This moment hurts, but it will not destroy me. Thanksgiving places a boundary around your heart. It protects you from bitterness, jealousy, and resentment. It reminds you that your life is not empty just because it is not perfect. A daily attitude of gratitude also develops spiritual strength, just as muscles grow when they are stretched. Faith grows when gratitude is practiced in difficulty. Every time you thank God in a hard moment, your faith gets stronger, your trust becomes deeper, and your endurance increases. You begin to see life not as a series of problems, but as a journey guided by God. You learn to rest in His will instead of fighting against reality. Gratitude as a daily choice changes how you speak. Complaints decrease, encouragement increases. You stop declaring defeat and start declaring hope. You stop repeating fears and begin to proclaim faith. Your words shift because your heart shifts. And when your words change, so does your atmosphere. What you speak begins to shape what you feel and what you believe. Choosing gratitude also changes how you treat others. When you are thankful, you become more patient, more generous, more kind. You stop reacting from anger and start responding with love. Gratitude softens your heart. It teaches you humility. It reminds you that you are blessed even when you are still waiting for something better. Living with gratitude daily does not remove every struggle, but it gives you the courage to face them without losing your peace. It gives you a stability in instability, strength in weakness, clarity in confusion. And when Thanksgiving becomes your lifestyle instead of your last resort, you walk into every day with confidence, faith, and quiet joy regardless of what lies ahead,